Good morning, guys. Welcome to today's lesson, April 30th, Multiplying Polynomials, Day 2. You can see our aim today. What operations with polynomials do we need to master? Essentially, the major operation you need to master is multiplication, but with that includes combining like terms, which is addition, subtraction, all that, so it's really everything. Alright, but the problem usually starts with some sort of multiplication, like you can see in the do now here. What is the product of negative 3x squared y and 5xy squared plus xy? Now this is a monomial, this negative 3x squared y, that's a monomial, it's one term, times a binomial. The second expression is two terms. So really when it's a monomial times something, it's just product, right, multiplication. It's just a distributive property. So this is negative 3x squared times 5xy squared. So negative 3 times 5 is negative 15. Now we have to multiply our x terms. X squared times x, which is x to the third power. Remember that exponent is really 1 for that second x there. And then y times y squared, which is y to the third power. Because once again, this y has an exponent of 1. You add those exponents. First it was 2 and 1 is 3. Now it's 1 and 2 is 3. You just add in those exponents. Now, negative 3x squared y times xy. First off, remember the number in front of xy, the coefficient there is 1. So it's really negative 3 times 1, which is negative 3. Remember, you multiply the numbers out front first. Now x squared times x, which is x to the third power. And then y times y, which is y squared. So which answer choice? This would be choice 1. Negative 15x cubed y cubed minus 3x cubed y squared. So just the distributive property. Keep in mind you multiply the numbers out front, then you multiply any common variable. So the x's, you multiply those together, keep the x, add the exponents. Multiply the y's together, keep the y, add the exponents. Alright? Now, the next one we have product, which we know is multiplication, of two binomials. So this is not necessarily distributive property. This we learn through the box method. So you write your expressions, 3x plus 2 and x minus 7, and then you multiply all throughout. So 3x times x is 3x squared. 3x times negative 7, so bottom left here, is negative 21x. Top right, we have 2 times x, which is 2x. And bottom right, we have 2 times negative 7, which is negative 14. Remember, you have like terms here that you need to combine. Those both have an x. It's good to write it out. 3x squared minus 21x plus 2x minus 14. Like terms, 3x squared doesn't have a like term. Negative 14 does not have a like term. So you just rewrite your 3x squared. Negative 21x plus 2x is negative 19x minus 14. And you're done, which is choice 3. So it was multiplication, right? But at the end of this, we had to make sure we identified like terms and then added or subtracted them depending on whatever the operation was. Alrighty, next. So the expression a squared plus b squared is equivalent to what? So if we were to write that out, guys, that's saying to multiply a squared plus b squared times a squared plus b squared, because they put that whole expression to the second power, which they're saying they want you to multiply that by itself. So, box method. Two binomials again. So a squared plus b squared, a squared plus b squared. Same thing. A squared times a squared is a to the fourth power. Right? Add the exponents. 2 plus 2 is 4. Bottom left, a squared times b squared. So they're not the same variable. You can multiply them, but that just puts them next to each other. that doesn't have you keeping a base and adding exponents. So you literally end up with a squared b squared. You just multiply them, they're right next to each other, they're multiplied by each other. Same thing top right, it's a squared times b squared again, so you end up with a squared b squared. You're multiplying them together, but you're not just keeping like a or b and then adding exponents, you just write them next to each other. Then bottom right is b squared times b squared, which is b to the fourth power. So what you're left with is a to the fourth power plus a squared b squared plus a squared b squared plus b to the fourth power. Now these are like terms, guys. They have the exact same variables, a and b, and those variables are to the exact same exponent. What we have to remember is those invisible ones. This is 1 a squared b squared. Alright, this is 1 a squared b squared. So what you end up with is a to the fourth plus 2 a squared b squared plus that b to the fourth power, which ends up being choice 3. Gotta be careful with those invisible ones. Is it an exponent of 1 that's not showing? Is it a coefficient, the number in front of 1 that's not showing? Gotta be careful. Alright, now we're going to mix it up, so it's not necessarily just the box method. In this one, you have to see the box method, which would be here, just like 2x plus 1 squared. That's the exact same setup as we had in number 3, where we had a certain binomial really to the second power. So that's the box method. And like number 1 today, this next piece, negative 2 in front of that set of parentheses, that's the distributive property. So now we have kind of a combination. Got to be careful. So first, let's set up the box method. We have 2x plus 1 times 2x plus 1. So you end up with 2x times 2x is 4x squared. 2x times 1 is 2x. 2x times 1 again is 2x. And 1 times 1 is 1. Like terms. So we end up with 4x squared plus 2x plus 2x plus 1. These two x's are your like terms. So what you have is 4x squared. Let me start this more to the left. This is going to be a pretty lengthy expression to start. 4x squared plus, when you combine 2x and 2x, you get 4x plus 1. Now, the distributive property. So our focus is here. Right, we have to focus here, this section. We took care of that binomial squared in front. Now you have that distributive property there. So we have negative 2 times 2x squared, which is negative 4, right? Negative 2 times 2 is negative 4, and then the x squared comes along, so negative 4x squared. And you also have negative 2. Notice how I'm keeping the sign in front of that 2. I'm not saying 2 times this, 2 times that. It's really negative 2. All right, keep the sign in front. That's something that's very helpful for students. Keep the sign in front. If it's negative, or if there's really what you see as subtraction, it's really like a negative symbol. And really, subtraction and negative are the same thing. So it's negative 2 times negative 1, which is a negative times a negative is a positive, so it ends up being plus 2. So like terms now, 4x squared and negative 4x squared, 4x, no like terms with that, no other x terms, and then a couple constants. Now the 4x squared and the negative 4x squared, those cancel each other out. It's like adding 4 and negative 4, those are gone. So we're left with 4x, and we're left with 1 plus 2, which is 3, which is choice 1. Alright, so it's a lot, but keep in mind, do I have box method? Do I have distributive property? If it's one term times something, distributive property. If it's a binomial with a binomial, or a binomial with even like a trinomial, we have to use the box method. Alright, now let's see what we have in number 5. Which trinomial is equivalent to 3 times x minus 2 squared minus 2 times x minus 1? Alright, so think about what we'd have to do first. If you remember PEMDAS, right, parentheses, alright, we have a couple set of parentheses, exponents, you really have to take care of the exponents first, so what we're focused on first here is this x minus 2 squared, which, like we practiced a couple times now in 3 and 4, we have the box method. So we have x minus 2 and x minus 2. X times x is x squared. X times negative 2 is negative 2x. Same thing. Negative 2 times x is negative 2x. Negative 2 times negative 2 is 4. And you got your like terms again. So we have x squared minus 2x minus 2x plus 4, like terms. Now that's just negative 2 minus 2. If you don't know it, calculator, x squared minus 4x plus 4. And remember, guys, up top here, we simplified that exponent, that x minus 2, that binomial squared. Now they're asking us to multiply that by 3. So 3 times what we just got when we expanded that squared over there. And then we also have minus 2 in front of an x minus 1. So you have a few instances of distributive property. The 3 has to hit all 3 of these pieces here, and the negative 2 has to hit the 2 pieces of the binomial. Keep in mind at any point you can definitely pause the video. Excuse me. So now, 3 times x squared is 3x squared. 3 times negative 4x is negative 12x. And 3 times 4 is 12. Now negative 2 times x is negative 2x, and negative 2 times negative 1 ends up as positive 2. At any point, these little operations that I'm saying like it's nothing, please know you can type it in the calculator if you're not sure what a negative times a negative is. Alright, but get familiar with those rules. You'll see them a bunch. So like terms, 3x squared, nothing, negative 12x, yep, negative 2x. And then we also have a couple constants, numbers by themselves. Those are also like terms. You end up with 3x squared. Those x terms, negative 12x minus 2x is negative 14x. And 12 and 2 is 14, which is choice 4. There's a lot going on. Alright, these questions, like I have here, these questions kind of stink, right? There's a lot of work, alright, especially if you're stressed on a test or something like that, and you're like, alright, I don't remember what to do. You could very easily make a very minor mistake with a sign, like positive or negative, totally throws off your answer. So I said I wish the state allows us to use some form of technology that would help us with these multiple choice questions. Hopefully you're thinking about something I really encourage you to use here and there throughout the year. GeoGebra can help you guys. If nothing else, a way to check your answer. So you see this right here. It's saying which expression is not equivalent to negative 4x cubed plus x squared minus 6x plus 8. As you throw this in GeoGebra, it's going to give you a graph. And then you throw in all your answer choices, it's going to give you a graph. If it's the same graph, it's equivalent. If it's a different graph, it's different. All right, then it's not equivalent. So what we're going to do here, we're going to type in the given, and we're also going to type in those answer choices. So get your GeoGebra ready. The original is negative 4 x to the third power plus x squared minus 6x plus 8. You see that red line? You got your graph. Great. So now the first choice is x squared times, so parentheses, negative 4x plus 1 minus 2 times 3x minus 4. You see they overlap. So my orange line and the red line there, they overlap. They're the same graph. They're equivalent expressions. All right, and this really makes it into an equation, so it graphs it. All right, but you can see it's the same. All right, choice 2. X times negative 4x squared minus x plus 6, close parentheses, and then plus 8 on the end here. All right, I'm just making sure I entered it correctly, and it is not the exact same. So it is choice 2. That's not equivalent. I encourage you, just for sake of time with the video, I'm not going to type in choices 3 and 4, but they end up being the exact same as the original. But choice 2 has a different graph. It's not equivalent. So I encourage you to use that. So why do we even need this? Why do we even have to learn the math? All right, you have to show all work here to get full credit. You might not have answer choices. So it's saying express the product of 2x squared plus 7x minus 10 and x plus 5 in standard form. If you remember, this would be a 3 by 2 box when we set that up, because it's a trinomial and a binomial. So 2x squared plus 7x minus 10 and x plus 5. So 2x squared times x is 2x cubed. Remember, this is a 1 in front, so 2 times 1 is 2. This is a 1 for the exponent, right? So it would be 1 plus 2 for the exponents to give you 3, just to show you where that comes from. Bottom left here, 2x squared times 5 is 10x squared. All right, now let's deal with 7x. 7x times x is 7x squared. 7x times 5 is 35x. Now we have negatives, be careful. Negative 10 times x is negative 10x, and negative 10 times 5 is negative 50. So it'd be good to write all this out. 2x cubed plus 10x squared plus 7x squared plus 35x minus 10x minus 50. You know our x squared terms are like terms, and our x terms are also like terms. The x cubed term and the constant do not have any like terms. So when we combine our like terms, we end up with 2x cubed plus 17x squared plus 25x minus 50. Now when they say standard form, guys, what they mean is that the exponents, so you see an exponent of 3, an exponent of 2, an exponent of 1, and then a constant. They just mean they want the exponents to be descending, so decreasing in how large they are. So an exponent of 3, an exponent of 2, an exponent of 1, no exponent. Alright, so it just means don't write the x squared term in front of the x cubed term. Alright, you want to start with the largest, the term that has the highest exponent, and then go down from there, which we did unintentionally basically, but just keep that in mind. Alright, write the expression, you can see that, as a polynomial in standard form. So I don't see any binomials, so two-term expressions being squared, so there's no box method, but I do see 4x squared in front of parentheses. So you know a binomial, 4x squared, in front of a monomial in front of a binomial like that. You know, all right, we have to make sure that we distribute. So that 5x stays in front. Now it's 4x squared times 2x, which would be 8x to the third power. Now 4x squared times 7, which is 28x squared. So make sure you're getting that when you distribute. It's all positive, so just the number times the number, and then include the variable as well. Now we have minus 6x squared, minus 9x, like terms, 5x, and negative 9x, x cubed and nothing, 28x squared, and negative 6x squared. So in standard form, remember, so the highest exponent term we have to write first. So 8x cubed should be out front. Now let's combine our x squared terms. So 28x squared minus 6x squared is 22x squared. And 5x minus 9x is negative 4x. And you're done. Alright, and there's one more. You don't have to do this one if you don't want, but if you're feeling like a challenge, alright, this one comes to choice 2. You could try that out, but we've gotten plenty of practice today in terms of, alright, here we have to distribute. Here we have to make sure we use the box method. We can actually definitely use GeoGebra in some of these questions. Alright, some of them involve distribution a couple times and the box method, so you got to be careful. But remember, the main thing is your operations with polynomials. Multiplication is a key one in terms of box method and distribute, but in order to do that, you have to have the foundation of adding and subtracting down pat, because it's involved. You have to combine like terms at the end. Alright guys, your delta math, please make sure you get that done by 8 o'clock tonight. Alright, that's really a huge point. These lessons and the delta math are obviously a large portion of your grade. Remember, you have to pass the class to move on to Algebra 2 next year. So that means that there's still 40% of your grade to be determined. There's 20% from marking period 4, and then there will be some sort of final exam, which is another 20%. So that's a huge portion. It's almost half. Almost half of your grade is still to be determined in this class, so make sure you're doing the right thing, watching these videos, taking great notes, and doing your delta math well and on time. Alright, have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll see you mañana.